Okay, I am live. Yay, okay. And people are hurt, that's cool. I haven't done this very often. Okay, so just so I don't feel completely alone, if you guys want to pop in the chat, that would be really cool. Um, yeah, it's so different to use this. Okay, all right. Just going to pull up. I have an actual itinerary for this, so I don't go off, like my brain does, spiraling away. Hi, Samantha. If my dog starts to bark too, she's very upset because there's construction outside, so FYI. Okay, so I wanted to go live. I wanted to start using YouTube a little bit more because I can utilize the videos more. So, hello. It's so good to see you guys. I wanted to celebrate, by the way. So I do have some wine here, to celebrate 4 years of being a full-time author, which is so wild to me because I had never celebrated this date before, and I don't even know what made me think about it. I was thinking about, like, big dates that I could celebrate with my readers, which was, like, Katie's birthday. And, I realized, like, August 14th is when I quit my full-time job as a librarian, as a public librarian, and became a full-time author, which is such a dream come true. And, I was like, "I should do something for that," and, there's no better way, I think, to celebrate it than to be live with my readers because you guys are why I'm here. So my itinerary hold, please. Ugh, tastes good. I haven't had wine in a while. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the congrats. Yeah, okay, so my itinerary kinda looks like, just going through a quick overview of my writing journey, which some of you have been here with me for a while, so you're probably already familiar with the roller coaster that was. Um, I'm gonna tell you about what I'm working on this year and then some projects that I have, in the works for 2025. That is the next year, right? Feels like all running together. And then I have the list of questions that you guys left for me on all the platforms. So that's kind of what it's going to be. But I think you guys mostly know that I was once an indie author. I started self publishing I actually started self publishing back in 2014, but I started publishing under Scarlet in 2018. And I wrote When Stars Come Out, which actually I'd written When Stars Come Out back in high school, and I just couldn't let the story go. I kept it with me for so long and rewrote it. I used it sort of as my tool to get better at writing. And then I had a choice to write its sequel or to work on A Touch of Darkness, and I chose A Touch of Darkness. It was my very first romance. And the end, like that's sort of history, right? That's what started all of this, and it just grew in popularity. Really, the first year, A Touch of Darkness only made like $2,000. That was huge. I'd never made so much money from a book in my entire life, and I remember telling my CPA to be ready because next year I was going to make even more. And the next year, I had published A Touch of Ruin and A Game of Fate, and that's also when I quit my full time job. So yeah, it was it was very quick. It was a very quick and wild ride, and I feel like the reason it was so I think that one of the keys to the success, which I have been reflecting on a lot recently, was that I stopped worrying about accomplishing all the big things. Like, for example, hitting the New York Times, because there's no real good measure for that, right? Like, we know the New York Times doesn't actually rank books based on sales. It's some other formula. So, like, that's not a metric of your success. And once you realize that, you can start focusing on what really matters, which are all the successes, like your first reader, your first review, reaching 50 reviews on Amazon. That was a big thing for me. Reaching 100 reviews on Amazon, gaining more followers on Instagram, like your first fan art. Those are all things that I started to celebrate. And I feel like that's really when things just fell into alignment for me. So it was very, very nice. And I continued on that journey with a touch of malice, and that's when I transitioned into traditional publishing. And traditional publishing is really interesting. I think I still have a version of traditional publishing that's very indie because I have a say in a lot of things. Um, but I also recognize, like, one of the challenges for me in traditional publishing, when I first came into it, I was told, like, "Your job is writing, like, it's that's your job." And in my brain, I was like, partly you kind of think, "Oh, I must be doing it wrong," like, I have to just really focus on writing, and I took a step back from some things that I think really bring me joy, and one of them is this, like, getting to be, like, online with my readers and interacting with my readers. So it's just a very nice thing to sort of come back to this. And no one's really like, you know what I mean? It's all about how we interpret those things. Like, that's not what that means when it says just your job is writing. But that's how I took it. And now I'm recognizing what I did there. It's kind of weird. Um, so okay, what I'm working on this year, I am working on a new book, before I dive back into Born of Flames and Sacrifice, and that title's so interesting, by the way, I have to say as an aside for the novella Born of Flames and Sacrifice, um Alex, it feels like a FaceTime. That's what someone said about my Get Ready With Me, and I was like, "Oh, that's a huge compliment." Um, so Born of Flame and Sacrifice is such a funny title because I feel like I want it to be different, but it's so perfect because the whole concept of Adrien and Isolde is, like, literally born of flame and sacrifice. So it's actually perfect, but whatever. Anyways, before I dive into that, I am working on a work in progress, which I have, teased to you guys if you've been paying attention. And I love it. I'm obsessed with it. It is, yeah, one of my favorite books that I've ever written, and I think I say that about every book that I am on in the moment. But I'm just so in love with it, and I really feel like I haven't felt this way about a book since King of Battle and Blood. It's a very different feeling from Mountains Made of Glass, for example. But so I am working on that, and mark your calendars for September 9th because that's when we will be announcing that project. Um, and I'm just so excited for it. Absolutely cannot wait. It'll be coming out in July next year. So you have a lot of things coming out from me in July, or not in July, in 2025. We have Born Aflame, the novella coming out with a new cover. We have the new covers for King of Battle and Blood and QMM. And I did tell you guys a little bit about why I chose to change those covers. I really am into this idea of, like, you feeling immersed in the story, being able to visualize it as I see it before you even read the first line. So I love that idea, and so I really love the new covers. I can't wait to see. I haven't seen the cover for Kingdom of Spirit and Shadow, which is the third book in that series, and it's coming out in January of 2026. I'm going to take 2025 to work on it. We also have some very special things planned for the latter half of 2025. They include the bound edition of Mountains Made of Glass and Apples Dipped in Gold, and also a special edition of a certain book we've been really working hard on. I'm really wanting it to be like this ultimate special edition, and I'm doing a lot of personal work on it. Um, throughout the entire story. So we'll have more information on that as well. So a lot of different things coming out next year that I'm super excited about for you guys. So um yeah, okay. So now I I can get to these questions. So I'm going to answer your chat questions when I get through these questions. So you can go ahead and leave questions in the chat, and I'll get to those as soon as I get through the ones that were submitted on social platforms. So if that sounds good to you guys. This first one is, when did you decide to go full time as an author and why? And I decided to go full time as an author when I realized that my income as an author exceeded the income as a librarian. But prior to that, I had done a lot of work because, like, this was my goal for a long time, to be a full-time author since I was 13, and I knew when you become an author, you are considered self-employed. So I knew I was gonna have to have, like, a CPA, I was gonna have to have, additional life insurance, I was gonna have to have, various things. I didn't have to worry about health insurance because I'm Native, and we have a healthcare system, so that was a big, like, burden off my shoulders, but I made sure that I had a Roth IRA in place. I made sure I had additional life insurance. I had a CPA who could do my taxes for self-employment, that kind of thing. So when I was ready to go full time, it was a pretty easy transition since I already had those things in place. But the big thing, of course, was the income, and I remember telling my friends that I was going to do it because I made the decision, like, on a Friday and was like, "I'm putting my 2 weeks notice in on a Monday." And, and they were very cautious. They were like, "Maybe you should wait. Maybe this is a fluke." And I know that was just them trying to protect me. They were worried for me, but I knew myself and I knew it was time. And look, it's been 4 years, so I made the right decision. But obviously, I wouldn't be here without you guys, so that's a big deal, and I'm very, very grateful. So, um, what's one thing you've learned that you wish you could have known then? Um, I think really it's what I talked about with, like, continuing to celebrate all the milestones, because what happens when you do this, full time is certain things start to become normal, or as you get tired, they become, um, sort of, it's not dreadful, it's just, um you feel more exhausted, right? So, like, things that should be a milestone or that you should celebrate more sort of become a normal thing. When I'm in the middle of tour and I get really tired, right? Like, I start to feel really, like, bad because I feel like not everyone gets the same version of Scarlet, and I just really, like, told myself, like, I have to start taking, like, time on tour to like decompress so I can really appreciate like every moment. And I think that's the most important thing. Like, always go back to your roots when you're doing something like this, because you can get so caught up in just like you can get so caught up in doing the next thing, right? And I feel like me, like, I for so long I haven't taken the time to celebrate all of my accomplishments because I'm like, okay, that's done. I got to do the next thing. I got to keep going. I got to keep the momentum up. And actually, what that ends up doing is exhausting us, right? Like, we start to feel like we start to lose our sense of comfort in the thing that we love the most. And so that's what I would have reminded myself of, and what I would go back and remind myself to continue to do. Um, what mindsets or things did you have to let go of that weren't helping you along the way? Yeah, this is interesting because I think part of it is you recognize the system that's in place in the traditional space, which is it's things like the New York Times, right? The things that we use as measures of our success as authors. But when you find out that those things aren't measuring what you think they measure, they don't matter anymore, right? Like, growing up, I remember it felt like the ultimate pinnacle of success was to hit the New York Times. Like, that when I hit the New York Times, I would be a success. And then finding out that it doesn't even measure like true sales, like, I mean, it measures sales, but also other things. So the people ranked on that list, they could be all out of order. It's not based on like, you know, it's not based on uh like the highest to lowest number of sales, right? So then it just becomes something that exists, like a thing that exists that it's cool if you hit, but also it's not a measure of your success. And you have to leave those things behind and choose what actually is means like success for you. If the New York Times means success for you, then by all means. But for me, I had to recognize like to me that's not the true measure of success. The true measure of success is, are my readers active with me online? Like, do we get to fangirl together about how much, like, we love Hades and Adrien annoys us? Do do you guys engage? Like, do we engage together? Do we build community together? Like, those are the things that I absolutely love and that those are the goals that I wanted to establish when I became an author, and they're so important to me. So hi, Mandy. So, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think that those are the things that I had to let go of so I can continue to be successful at this job. Because if you don't, it's going to hurt your confidence. And when your confidence is hurt, you can't write as well, right? Okay. So, anyways, I don't, I don't know if that makes any. I hope that helps you guys. So, okay. Do you have a reward system for yourself? Like when you finish a chapter or a book, do you treat yourself for a job well done? I am working on this. Also, my hair is so oily. I'm just like seeing it right now. It's so gross. Just want to hide it. Anyways, um, oh, I know, Jamie. We are friends. What are you talking about? Um, I don't have a reward system. So also, LOL at finishing a chapter because like yesterday I wrote 355 words and today I probably like edited 300 words. So so I haven't even like I haven't even gotten close to finishing a chapter, but I'm working on being more kind to myself because sometimes our brains just don't work the way we want them to in the moment. And this is one of the ways like this is a reward for me. I'm like it's so rewarding to get to be here with you guys and like this is celebration, right? Going on tour is celebration. It's like I think that's where my mindset goes is like when I finish a book, that means I'll get to go on tour and I'll get to celebrate with my readers. And that's so valuable because when you're like face to face with a book, it's so hard to tell. It's so hard to tell like if it's good at all. And then when you go and see your readers, it's confirmation that you did a good job, right? And that's what I seek, I think. So, um, oh, good. I think it's Yarly. Yeah, thank you. I hope you enjoy Hades and Persephone. Um, okay, I am going to oh god, I'm losing my spot. Um, how do you best catch plot holes while writing? This is an interesting one. I had to think about this for a little bit. I'm not sure I have the best answer, but I think what helps, so something that I do, especially if I have a very complicated plot. A Game of Gods, for example, was so fucking complicated. Uh, I outlined that book, and I didn't outline the entire book from start to like from before I even started. I just outlined a little as I went. And when I started to get lost in the plot, I went back to my outline and continued the outline. And I also color coded the outline. And what happens when you color code is you pick the different plot threads running throughout your book. So like in the Game of Gods, I had like the Ophiutorus, for example. So I highlighted every time the Ophiutorus was mentioned so I can tell if I was keeping up the momentum and reminding readers about Mandy. She's proud of my color coding because she color codes her schedules and I always kind of make fun of her for it. But so if you color code it and you color code each plot thread, you can tell how often you're bringing it up and how often you're reminding your readers about the things like the plot threads that you have seeded throughout the novel. So that's one way you can ensure that you're not leaving any plot threads. The other way is in editing, right? Developmental editing is meant for this. It's meant to catch these plot holes or these character, maybe you have some inconsistencies in character development, and that's what developmental editing is for. So don't be so caught up, I think, in get writing that perfect like draft. Just know that someone else can read that and help you find those holes. So um what was your favorite scene to write for Hades and Persephone? I man, oh gosh, my favorite book from Hades and Persephone is A Game of Gods. I really love it. I love Dionysus's point of view, and it cracks me up when readers say like, "I really wasn't sure. I wasn't sure that I would like that," or like, I was like, What the fuck are you doing?" But like, just trust me, like, um. Also, the funny part about Hades and Persephone saga is like, I was diagnosed with ADHD this year, and I'm like, there was no bigger clue than that fucking series. Like the way I executed it is like the embodiment of ADHD. But anyways, my favorite scene right now, the one I'm thinking of the most is the sex scene in A Touch of Chaos, like the real sex scene, like after they come back from Ares Island, because it was so intentional. It was so crafted over 3 days. I have never taken so long in my entire life to write a fucking sex scene, but that one, it took me 3 days, and I really appreciate it. I feel like you can, feel the passion in that scene and the desperation in that scene. So no, okay, Mandy, we call Dionysus little D because he's an alpha male. No, he's a beta male, right? Hades is the alpha male. Dionysus is the beta male. So he's little D. Um, okay. What advice would you give for first-time authors? Okay, so a couple things. I think find a way to yes, right? Like you're always going to when you're in this industry, you're always going to face rejection, even when like even me, I still face rejection and like not for typical things like books because I'm contracted for books like forever, not forever, until like 2026. But you'll be told no on projects that you feel really passionate about. Like maybe you want to adapt like a comic or something, and you might be told like now is not the right time or whatever. And just find a way to yes. Sometimes that does mean like waiting till the right people come into play. Sometimes that means just like when I was looking for a publisher and people kept telling me, no, we don't take on self published authors anymore, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't think that's true, or at least it's not going to be true in a couple weeks. Um, and just, I think the thing that you have to remember, no one is going to believe in you as much as you believe in yourself. When you stop believing in yourself, that's when you have a problem. But so long as like you believe in yourself and remember that no one, not I even hate to say this, but no one, not even your agents, not your publisher, it's just fact that no one believes in you as much as you believe in yourself, you will have success. Um, the other thing is like it took me a long time to realize that rejection from agents and publishers, it doesn't mean that you're a bad writer. It doesn't mean that your book won't work eventually somewhere in, for example, an indie space. So I feel like the industry sort of teaches us that we have to have approval from this traditional space, but all we need is that belief in ourselves, right? When I let that go, I found success. What is your favorite and least favorite part of the writing process? My favorite part is daydreaming, like daydreaming, researching. That's my favorite part. It's sometimes it's not author's favorite part, and I think that's so funny. But like, I would rather daydream about a book than write it because my least favorite part is putting words on the page. Actually, it just depends. Like if I'm feeling it, if they're really talking, I love it. It's so fun. But if they're not and I'm like every fucking word is like pulling teeth, I hate it. I'm like, why? I always do this. I'm like, why did I want to do this? Why? Why? Why do I want to do this? Anyways, isn't that funny that my least favorite part of writing is writing? I hope you guys also have wine because we're celebrating. Oh, do you see my shrine to my daddy right behind me? I'm pointing to the screen like you guys can see me. Oh, look, I did that, I think. Oh, go away. I hate when it does that. Anyways, that's my shrine to my dad. And so this is so hard to do. That right there, that piece of paper I have framed, it's actually my tattoo on my wrist, on my arm, on my forearm, um, that my dad wrote to me. It says, "You are the brightest star. I love you, Dad." And it's interesting because I know stars appear in my books a lot. In KBB, that's a big thing. Like, you're the brightest star. Like, um, you know, Adrien and Isolde's little like thing, like, our whatever about our love. Someone quote it in the comments because my brain is like fucking out there. But when I lived in the small town I lived in, Eufaula, um, I lived in the woods, like literally in the woods. Um, yeah, brighter than all the stars in the sky. I lived in the woods and it was so fucking dark. But the sky was scattered with stars and they were so beautiful. And I was obsessed with stars to the point that like I forgot I would do this, but I would print pictures from the internet of stars and just keep them in an envelope. So dumb. Anyways, that's why they're in all my books. Like when stars come out, like Honora is very interested in space, and it's because like I was very interested in space. But I suck at math, so I could never like, do anything like that. So hey Nina, hey McKenna. Yeah, all the stars in the sky are not as bright as my love for you. See, I forget my own iconic lines. I actually was like, are people going to think this is cheesy? I'll write it anyway. That's my thought process around that line. What's your schedule as a writer? Does it help you be productive? I am working on my schedule as we speak as a writer. I Right now I wake up around 4 to start writing because the world is so quiet and people don't bother me at that time because they're asleep, because they're sane. But I have a wellness coach who's also helping me with burnout. And I was talking to her about it and how it feels so nice to wake up at 4 because the world is so quiet. And she told me that scientifically, when we wake between the hours of 3 and 5, there's something in the magnetism of the planets that energizes the nucleus in our cells, and it does help us work better. And then I was like, "Do I wake up at 3?" And then I was like, "Ugh, no." So anyways, 4 it is. So I'm waking up at 4. Mandy has her eyes on me because, she knows my schedule is just, like, it's such a hard thing. Um, so the goal is to write from 4 to like 8 or 9, then work out until around 10:30. Then I take a break until 1 o'clock, and then I start working on different projects. And I have a get ready with me. We haven't posted yet, but in it, I talk about these two projects that I'm working on. And one is I'm trying to teach myself script writing, which I dread saying in some ways, but I just want to know how to write a script. I just want to play around and adapt to Touch of Darkness and KBB into script format. And I've always done this kind of thing where I like try to improve in different types of writing because I think it strengthens all your writing. So for example, when I was in college, I took a lot of poetry classes, and I think you can see some of that reflected in my writing, like, especially Mountains Made of Glass and Apples Dipped in Gold. I really play into, like, poetry in those books. But I felt like I was so weak in the poetry department and, like, using metaphor, blah, blah, blah. And so with the idea with script writing, it's the same thing. I'm like, oh, it would be cool to like really understand how scripts are structured. Also, like, be fucking cool if I could be a writer on my own TV show someday. So, anyways, I'm teaching myself that. So I had to add it into my schedule. But I'm really learning how to be on a schedule because when I was a librarian, I was really good at it because I had to be somewhere from like 9 to 5. And then I had to write my second job. I considered it my second job around those hours. And then when I lost that structure, and then my dad died. That I think that was really the catalyst. I lost all the structure I had. So now I'm getting back to it, and it's very hard for my brain. But I'm trying to be kind to myself. The one thing that is really working though is waking up at 4 and starting my creative day, what my day with that, with writing. So um, see, I knew y'all were gonna do that. The Easter egg for the movie adaptation, and I'm like, that's why I dread saying it because I'm teaching myself, y'all. I'm teaching myself. Um, how do you develop your unique turn of phrases? Are you well? Okay, this one's so funny. Are you well is just because Hades is ancient as fuck, and I was like, he can't say, "Are you okay?" Like, I was like, he has to say something like that's a little more elevated, right? Like, like. So then I did it, and it became a thing, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?" Like, it was so cute. But yeah, are you good, bruh? Do you guys remember that thing I did on Instagram where I was like, add bro to the end? Are you well, bro? Yeah. um, yeah, so anyways, that's why it's are you well? There was no other reason. And then the same thing with like fucking fates. I thought it was hilarious. I think like most of my things come from just like I'm like, oh, that's fucking hilarious. I don't expect it to catch on at all. I just do it and then it goes out there and then y'all take it and make it a thing. So thank you for that. I really love it. And yes, okay. I do have to say, man, I'm talking so fast I can't catch my breath. It's because you guys are I'm laughing with you. I hope I'm laughing with you, not at myself for sure. But yeah, okay. So the um the script writing thing, you guys know I am a manifesting thing. Like I love to manifest shit, and I go hard at it. And this is one thing I am going hard at. So I'm like, like you live the life that you want to create, and so I'm like, I can be a script writer. Like it'll happen. So I'm teaching myself, and I'm like, if I live the life, then it's gonna happen, right? I have no doubts, by the way. I have no doubts it's gonna happen. Um, okay. Sorry, that was an aside. Um, what was it like creating the stock imagery for the new covers for KBB? Okay, so I worked with the confusion on who's daddy death, bro. That was really funny, and I just love the idea of like Thanatos, who is such a like he's so like insecure with love. He could never be a daddy, right? Like he's got to learn to be a daddy, but he thinks in the moment he's a daddy. It just makes me laugh so much. Okay, anyways, this is what I love. Like getting to fangirl about these things with you guys is like the funniest thing ever. Okay. Adrien is old, the new covers. So I knew it was gonna be hard to find stock images that were gonna fit the vibe I was going for because there were a lot of elements, right? I have Isolde, who's a woman of color. She's not your average, like she's like I would say she's average size, but she's like, she's got her curves. She's not skinny. And that's all that's, there's just a lot of white skinny people on stock images. But also like finding things that looked baroque, it was going to be very difficult because they were going to be cheesy, is what was going to happen. So it would have been more work to do that. So Regina Wamba and I set out to find our models, and then we also like just gathered a bunch of stuff for it. Like she has a lot of stuff, like the throne that she has, like that. I mean, she bought that. She bought a fucking throne. She makes her sets, so it was actually like very easy to do these kinds of things. And they had a whole day, like a long ass day, where they just filmed and took pictures. And the woman, Fatima, she was so funny. She embodied Isolde's energy so much. When she got to set and she saw the bed, she said, "Is this where we fornicate?" And I was like, and poor Walter, who played Adrien, he was a little more shy, and I just think it was so funny. But I did love that we chose someone who was very much Isolde already, and I think the covers turned out so wonderful. And the first one I saw was actually QMM, which is one of my favorites. And I was blown away. And I mean, I just, the awe that I experienced when I saw it, and I haven't had it since then. I hope I do. Like, let's hope for my next my work in progress project I do. But yeah, it was a very cool process. She sent me screenshots a lot, and teasers along the way. Very exhausting day for them. I wish I could have been on set, but I was in another country. But I hope you guys love them. I love them so much. I think there's beautiful things about both covers, but to me, like this new set, it's very different, and I hope it stands out and grabs people's attention. So you guys know KBB is the series of my soul, and oof, man, I'm really excited to write Kingdom of Spirit and Shadow. Okay. Um, oh, who was the inspiration for Adrien? The inspiration visually for Adrien was this art of Sauron. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I share that openly, but I saw this art of Sauron, and then it made me wish, because like I was I know, isn't that funny? I know, yeah, McKenna, we're on the same page. I thought, like, I wish I had fan art, this kind of fan art of Lord of the Rings when I was younger. I would have been like in love with the fucking baddies, but I didn't have it, and I always imagined Sauron as like a metal guy. But then I saw that on Pinterest, and I was like, that man is hot, and I love blondes, and everyone's over here like, why is Adrian blonde? I love some dark haired guys. And I'm like, there are a lot of blonde dudes, right? A lot of hot blonde dudes. And every time it comes to Adrien, people are like, I want my dark haired, like, baddie. And I just judge you silently. So, yeah, McKenna, it's true. It's like he was inspired by Sauron. Okay. What are 3 words you would use to describe Isolde? Oh, every time I look at my hair, I'm just like, ew, it's so gross. It's so oily. Apologies. 3 words to describe Isolde, not 2. This is 3. Okay. The first one that came to mind is passionate because she is very passionate. Fierce, loyal. Yeah, I was gonna say loyal, but discerning. But she's kind of learning her discernment. Um, everyone's like, okay, thank you, Lexi. I'm just reading some of your comments. I could see it in Adrien after seeing Sauron with the long white blonde hair in a video game. That's so funny. Yeah. I don't know. I just saw him and I was like, I got to write a story with a guy who looks like this. And then I did. And Adrian's a piece of work, man. But, you know, good, good characters are like very morally questionable, I think. So, um, what's the infamous Scarlett St. Clair coffee order? Man, I get judged for this even in airports, y'all. Um, it's an Americano with 5 shots. And one time I was at the airport and someone called it out and was like, Americano with 5 shots? And this girl goes, oh my God. And I just, isn't that bad? I don't know any. Yeah, Fuzzy Adrian. Oh my God, you're here from Fuzzy Adrian. Yeah, we'll never forget that. If you don't know what Fuzzy Adrian is, it was a TikTok shop thing, and I will never forget that. Anyways, see, okay, McKenna. Yeah, 8 shots. There we go. So, anyways, I get judged for my 5-shot Americano everywhere. And then when I order it overseas, like when I was in Ireland and I ordered it, they were like, it already comes with 4. And I'm like, I know. I don't need to be reminded. I asked for 5 shots for a reason. It's honestly, the only reason I ask for 5 shots, it's not even about the caffeine. It's the taste. It has to be strong. And that's because of my dad. Because this man, he would make the strongest fucking coffee you've ever tasted in your life. Like, he always said it would put hair on your chest. Not a lie. Okay, so from the YouTube live, we have moved on to your questions. So also, if you have questions, make sure you get them in there. Would I ever come to Nashville on a tour? Probably. I don't know when. I'm going to try and take a break from travel next year so I can write because I do have a lot to do. Like, I've got Born of Flames and Sacrifice, and then Kingdom of Spirit and Shadow is going to be a very like complicated book. I don't know how big it will be, but it'll definitely be complicated. Um, so yeah, I imagine they have a specific way they pick the stops, and it has to do with like my fan base, but it's not the top fan base. It's like the middle people. They pick it based on like uh what is the word? Like it's not mediocre. It's like the mediocre fan base. It's not that's not what I mean. They pick it on like, where it's not as highly saturated. I know the word. This is an inside joke. It's subpar, but my editor is probably the only one who would get it. But anyways, yeah, they have a weird way they pick it. So I'm sure I'll be back in Nashville though. How did Hades POV come about? I heard it was from fan feedback. It was actually. I had an idea in my head. I probably would have like written. I probably may have made it a short story unless like if readers hadn't like asked for the entire book from Hades' point of view. But I knew I could make the plot of his point of view feel different. And I will say, like, A Game of Fate and A Touch of Darkness are the most similar of the pairings, but I wasn't going to do it if it was just going to be the same book, really. And yeah, so readers wanted it, and I asked, do you want A Game of Fate or A Touch of Malice first? And they chose A Game of Fate. And I never realized how that would fuck with me. I I I did not know that it would be the most confusing decision I ever made in my fucking life. Because now the question is, how do I read this series? And do I have to read Hades' point of view? And, a bunch of things like that. And, but I love Hades' point of view. I think the fun part about it is it adds to the world. It adds so much depth to the world because he knows it better than Persephone. And, in my head, I'm like, it makes it better for TV because it gives it more depth, right? And that's just my thing. That's just what I think. So, okay, what is the next book you plan to tour on? I think the next book, I'm not going to do a tour for Apples Dipped in Gold because I'll be overseas. So I'll just be doing signed copies via Best of Books. But I think it'll be the work in progress in July. I probably won't do an extensive tour because again, I'm trying to write more, but I think it will be the one I'm announcing on September 9th. So I'm so excited. I mean, I imagine some people are gonna say like, "What about Kingdom of Spirit and Shadow?" But it's on my schedule, y'all. Okay. Um, are you coming back to Europe slash Germany? I like how it got really broad and then really specific. Specific to Germany, I don't have any. I don't have anything on the schedule, but I love going to Germany. I love my publisher looks; they're so fantastic. I hope I'm invited back to an event there. As for Europe, I am going to be in Scotland for, I guess, you can consider that Europe. I'm going to be in Scotland and then the UK in September, and then France in November. So those will be, and that's it. Those are my final stops on this whirlwind travel that I have had this entire year. I've been home for probably a month um, in total throughout the entire year. What are some of your favorite things you've gotten from readers on tour? Did you guys see? I have like a shrine to y'all. Like y'all have shrines to me. I have a shrine to you. I have this hallway of just everything y'all have given me, and I try to display it really prettily, and like it has drawers, so like all the shirts go in the drawer. I got a really cool shirt that was like I love doing the concept of like a tour, like a music tour, but for my books. And so I got a really cool shirt that like embodies that. And then I got some beautiful earrings. Um, I got I got a Build-A-Bear Hades that says, "Are you well?" That's really like a really fantastic gift. Mandy got me my name in Elvish, which I absolutely love, a necklace that's has my name in Elvish. I keep all the letters that everyone gives me, the letters and cards. I have them in a photo album. Um, I try to frame all the art that I get. I have a really cool knitted or crocheted Cerberus. Like there's three of them, and they have a little red ball. Love that. Um, I have a bunch of Christmas ornaments. Um, yeah, I have so many cool things, and they're all just a big ass shrine out there, like of all the stuff that you've given me. So, gotten some really, really cool things. I'm very grateful for it too. Um, so curious to hear about Aphrodite and Hephaestus. I know we're getting a book, but they love each other so much and still struggle to figure out their relationship out. Yeah, I think this is sort of like my own personal journey too, because um, yeah, I've had a lot. I've been married since 2017. I've been married since 2017, and, I've been in a relationship with the same man since 2010, and I feel like when you start your relationship so young, you don't know who you are yet and who you want to be, and sometimes I feel like I don't even know how to be in a partnership. I don't know, you know, being someone who's married, I'm like, "What the fuck does marriage mean? What's the point of marriage?" Right? And yeah, I got to a point where I left. A few years ago, and I'm back. We're back together now, but we never really left each other. And I know everyone thought it was so weird. Um, and I can't. It's hard to explain because I can't even tell you. Like, I just needed the distance. I needed time away. I needed time to myself, and I came back we came back we always came back to each other, even during the time where yeah, I even filed for divorce, and I just think about that, and I think about Aphrodite and Hephaestus a lot, and that's them, like, that's what I will be exploring in that book. It's a very, like, personal journey, and I don't it's the thing is, it's just like Persephone. You know how people get so mad at her? But even that's a personal journey, and people aren't gonna understand it because they're not gonna have my experience. They're not gonna know this. They're not gonna understand devotion, I think. And at the end of the day, like, that's their thing, and that was my thing, and that was his thing. Like, we were always devoted to each other, even when we were distant. Um, yeah, I'm still understanding it because I feel like You know, it's very non-traditional. It's very non-traditional. It's very, like, strange to people. Um, but yeah, that's what that book is going to explore. Can we have a quick tattoo tour? You can only have my upper arms because I have pants on. Um, let's see. Well, everyone sees my butterfly, and this one is a matching butterfly tattoo that I have with my French exchange student. She's my host daughter. She stayed with me for a year and she wanted a matching tattoo. And I said, only if it can be gothic and a butterfly. And she said, okay, let's do it. I hate when it does that. Okay. Um, my first tattoo was under this rose. It was an A, but I covered it up with this other rose. And this was my second tattoo, this rose. I don't know how to show you. Like, can you see it? This was my second rose. It was from my grandma. The triangles mean nothing, but people ask all the time what they mean. They can mean change, I guess. I wanted a matching rose tattoo on my other arm, so I got this one, And then people will tell me they like this one better, and I wanna be like, "I didn't ask for your opinion." Because for fucking real. Um, this is Nemesis, uh, you know, she's the goddess of retribution. Um, Medusa and Athena on my forearm. And then on my thigh, I can just tell you what I have. I can probably try and show you my it's so hard. This is an Apollo and Hyacinth tattoo. It's Apollo's hand holding the hyacinth, bloody because of the way Hyacinth dies. Not a spoiler alert. We should all know. Yes, we get legs. On the other side, there's a pomegranate branch. These are the threads of fate, the hands of fate with the thread. They go. I've got one up here, and I've got one behind my leg, and then at the very top is Akate. So, and then I have a rose on my other ankle that my sister-in-law did, and it was her first tattoo ever. So, yeah, I show people that one because I don't know. I think it's cute. We know you love Hosier, but what other bands do you listen to? I listen to a lot of older. I say older, but like my like 2000s, like alt rock. Um, so like I mean, I guess Taking Back Sunday is from the 2000s. Bring Me the Horizon, which they're kind of popular, right? I mean, they've always been kind of popular, but they're more popular because of TikTok, I feel like, and Bad Omens because they're paired together a lot. I do listen to Bad Omens, Sleep Token. I'll go back into like actual high school days and listen to a lot of My Chemical Romance because I love My Chemical Romance. What else? Yeah. In high school, my favorite band was Fall Out Boy, though. I was such a scene. I was like a scene kid. I wasn't emo, but I was definitely scene. Can you talk about Hermes a bit? Where did you draw inspiration for his character? I think that Hermes is like the most unhinged part of my humor. Like he is just that piece of me that is like unhinged, and I let him go, and I reel myself in, but I don't reel him in. But I think the interesting thing is in life, the people who are the most fun, the most like charismatic, the most like always joking, they're always in a lot of pain. And I think when I wrote in the indie edition, there's a scene for Hermes from his point of view. It's the scene where Persephone is hurt in Malice. And I think the hard part about writing him is that he has such high highs and such low lows. And it's an extreme shift. It's like instant, because he's in so much pain and he's covering it up with all of that humor. And so as hilarious as he is also very sad. And I just find that interesting. Those dynamics are very interesting. And technically, his son is Pan, and Pan is the only god to have died. And it's a very weird way that I think it's weird the way that Pan died because it's said that like he died when like Christ was born, and I'm like, why is it Pan though? Anyways, yeah. So he's interesting. I love him. What about Theseus? Was he hard to write? Yes, he was very fucking hard to write. I hated writing him. It felt like every time I would write something from his point of view, it was like, how does a sociopath think? And what is the most abominable thing that he could do? And it was interesting because the way the plot unfolded, he just ended up being the bad guy. But I do think like what's interesting about him being the bad guy is in his own myth, right? He wouldn't have gotten through the labyrinth without Ariadne's help, right? So she's the true hero, but he's made into the hero. And I think that that's true of a lot of Greek myths. So to me it was fitting to make him into sort of the bad guy. But there are just moments that I felt like I don't know. He was it was very hard, and a lot of it though also was a lot of the myth fed into that because of how Phaedra dies, for example. There are different myths around her death, but one is the way she died in chaos. And so those kinds of things, I don't know, they just kind of worked. They fed really well into each other. So the story did really inform like how unhinged he really was. And when you are someone seeking that kind of power, I think without structure, without a morality structure, which he doesn't have, I think you can go unhinged. I think that's the nature of not only humans, but if you had godlike powers, where what direction would you turn? And I think that's very realistic. So, um, sorry, it keeps locking on me and it's annoying. Okay. Can we get any teasers about how you envision Isolde's character development? Isolde, I think Isolde's character development goes from being the conquered to the conqueror. So it's very interesting because, the people I think that have betrayed her are giving her sound advice, and it's a very hard realization to come to, but I think it's going to be a very interesting journey. It's gonna be a hard journey. It's going to be, um, really learning what true power is, and embracing that power. It's very hard for women who've been oppressed to embrace power because it's just, you know, there's always the threat of it being taken away, right, or burning again, right? So that is going to be her journey, and um, I think it'll be fueled even more when she reaches her mother's people. So I'm very excited to see that. So, okay, listen, that was the end of the questions, and we're about at an hour. So I just want to say, like, thank you guys so much for joining me on this live. It's been so fantastic to see all of your comments and have you join me. So yeah, I'll be posting this for later if you had to pop out or if you got here late, you can see the beginning. And yeah, I hope you guys will follow me on I hope you guys will follow on Instagram and the Substack. And I'll be doing more of these. So I love you guys. Thank you so much.